Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention in this executive space, okay? Ready? What happens when you've had the same title for years and years and years, but you actually haven't grown? So maybe you've been a director, VP, senior manager for 6, 8, even 10 years, right? Now, you're respected, you know the business, and your team leans on you, and you've delivered results, but here's the problem. From the outside, it just looks like you've been standing still. And in the market, that perception right there will cost you interviews, it will cost you offers and stretch roles that you're more than capable of probably doing. So we're gonna break down why long-term titles can stall your career and how to know if it's happening to you. Really, most importantly, what to do about it before it puts a ceiling on your next move. Let me be clear, loyalty is not the problem, right? You've likely stayed because you were building something, because, the work mattered, or because you were rewarded in other ways. So whether it was a bonus or autonomy of your job, stability, trust, in many companies, people who stay long are considered dependable for the most part. But the external market, they crazy, man. They don't see it like that. They see one title held for years and assume, oh, they've stopped growing. They're comfortable. They lack ambition or agility. Or they're probably behind on current trends or tech. And that might be really the furthest thing from the truth. In fact, you might be leading initiatives. You might be restructuring departments or mentoring future leaders, all without ever receiving a formal promotion or title change. This happens all the time, right? But here's the thing, perception is what drives opportunity. So even if you've evolved dramatically inside your role, inside your career, if you don't know how to frame that publicly, you'll be invisible. So how do you really know if this is becoming a problem? Here's just a few signs. So one could be you've been passed over for a promotion more than once, and no one's talking to you about your career plan at the organization. Or it could be your peers have changed roles 2 to 3 times while you've stayed put, and they're either being tapped for bigger roles elsewhere, potentially. Or your work feels more like maintenance than momentum, right? So it could be projects keep running, but there's not really a new challenge. Or recruiters are saying to you, you don't have enough recent progression. Or you're not being considered for roles that are clearly within your reach. Your LinkedIn profile looks nearly identical to what it did 5 years ago. That's a problem. Because maybe you haven't thought to update it. Here's the catch. You might still be doing complex, high-level work and getting good results, but the job title becomes a lid for your career. And when your title hasn't changed, your perceived value won't either. And guess what? Companies compare candidates side by side, and the one with upward progression, even if it's superficial, is typically going to win. So let's say you're still in the same seat, right? That doesn't mean you're stuck. So here's how to break out without waiting on your org to hand you a promotion. So number 1, lead with scope. Man, I say this all the time. Not title. Your title might be director, but if you're running strategy across 3 different business units, that's what you lead with, right? So start with your LinkedIn and your resume, right? Bullets with scale. Something like, hey, I've led global supply chain optimization across 5 countries. Or we can say we drove 18% year-over-year margin growth through our pricing strategy and vendor realignment. Don't open with, I'm responsible for, here's what I did. Here's what I grew, here's what I built, here's what I transformed. And showcase your role evolution. Even if your title stayed the same, your scope probably hasn't. The team's probably grown. So break up your experience into key phases or achievements, and sometimes use subheadings under one role to show hey, during this time I did this, during this time I did this, even though it was the same opportunity. Make sense? Same with title, right? Clear growth. This works. Number 3, look, your brand can evolve even if your title doesn't. So post insights, comment on leadership trends on LinkedIn, share your perspective, write an article. The more strategic your voice sounds, the more leadership people will assign to you. You don't need to go viral, right? You just need to sound like someone who thinks beyond their current role. Someone who's plugged into the business landscape. That alone will open doors for you. Now, sometimes the ceiling isn't just in your head, right? It may be in your company. Your company may not have any room to promote you. Is it in a decline or cost-cutting mode? Profitability issues, or keeps hiring above you without explanation, or treats you like mission critical but never rewards you with the growth. It might be time to move on. And that's okay, man. You don't need to wait until you're disengaged, bitter, frustrated, right? Move before you flatline. Move while you still care. The market wants what you bring, but it can only see it if you market yourself properly. But the good news, external roles evaluate you based on potential, not just history. You're allowed to want more. That's okay. You're allowed to grow. And if your current title doesn't reflect that, create your own runway. Stop waiting for a title change. Start marketing the version of you that already exists, but just hasn't been seen yet. Having the same title for years doesn't mean you're stale, but it does mean you have to be more intentional about how you're presenting yourself and the value you bring. And hey, as always, if you need help repositioning your experience or crafting a LinkedIn and resume message that really reflects your real value and turning it into real interviews and offers, that's exactly what we do here at Executive Career Upgrades. So subscribe for weekly content just like this. And if you're ready to level up, head on over to execupgrades.com and schedule a call with us. I believe there might be something in the description as well. And as always, hey, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.